Stranger Things. Stranger Things. I fell for Stranger Things when my husband and I started dating. I never had access to things like Netflix. Again, growing up broke made me appreciate a lot. So when I was dating my husband, I remember hanging out at his apartment, making popcorn, plopping down on his couch, and I would hear the gong Netflix noise and cozy up under his arm. To this day, when I hear the Stranger Things theme, I think of the newness of us and being excited and in love for the first time. For others, they were growing up and seeing those boys and Elle growing up in a different era. This era was free of devices that steal their souls, social lives that were active and fun. It meant a lot to them. They were nostalgic for something that they didn't even know about. For people like my husband, it was nostalgia in the purest form. The show was accurately depicting his childhood, complete with the soundtrack of his youth, the clothes he wore, the gadgets and games and movies he fell in love with, and the bikes he and his friends rode all over on. It was the perfect combination of member berries and something new. On top of all that, the show had excellent characters, dialogue, editing, color grading, etc., all for the first season at least. This show meant so much to so many people. So ending this beautiful thing they built wasn't going to be an easy task. They were bound to upset people, and according to the version of online the algorithm allows me to see, people are upset. Was this a case of the bigger they are, the harder they fall? Did they let a lack of planning and ideas ruin a good thing, or are we all exaggerating a bit? My opinion actually even surprised me. Obviously, be warned, there be spoilers ahead. Now I like to eat my vegetables first, so my last bites are my favorite things, carbs and meat. So why don't we start with what went wrong in this final season? Right out the gate, the editing was annoying. Swish, bang, pow, all for pointless things. I remember in the first episode of the last season, there was a scene all about finding a manual. That's it. Was it the manual that would hold all of the answers? No. It helped them out with one task, supposedly, but judging by the editing, it held the cure for cancer and solutions to the tensions in the Middle East. That one scene irritated me so much that each episode, when they would edit like that again, I'd turn to my husband and say, the quest for more manuals! Luckily, he and I consume movies the same way, with a heavy dose of overanalysis. I have friends who love/hate watching movies with me. I'm a bit too critical. My husband did some research and discovered why that jarring and stupid editing was even happening. It's actually for sad reasons. Due to the prevalence of phone usage and social media, people have a hard time paying attention while watching movies anymore. So the TV has become the second screen, and the phone or iPad is the first screen. Oh, Jesus, come on back. I think we're about done. So not only is that depressing, but it puts movie and TV makers in a difficult position. They have to make scenes that people will pay attention to or alert the audience when it's time to pay attention. So, while I'm putting it in the definite bad column, it's a position they felt they were in, so it's not just a lame choice. Moving on. I hated what they did to Steve. They made him the butt of jokes and made him seem moronish at times. Steve had such a lovely story arc. Handsome-ish McJerkface gone hero. A tale of a big, popular fish in a tiny pond who wasn't the nicest. Then, after hardship, he became a protector of children and defender of his town. He evolved. Had that not happened, he may have been destined to be the lonely guy at the bar reminiscing about how he was prom king and a football stud. And they allude to this by having him not move on very well throughout the series. He works at the mall with Robin in that one season with the Russians. At least in the end, he not only developed a good, deep friendship with Dustin, but he ended up using his gifts for sports and mentorship with children, and that became his job, so alright, I like that. I know. I'm going to get some flack for this, I believe. But I couldn't stand Nancy. From the beginning, she was rude, self-centered, dare I say, bossy. I appreciate that they made her the gunslinger. That's fine by me. It is, after all, the great equalizer. But throughout this last season especially, the writers made her the leader of the troop, and I couldn't tell why. It also seemed, in order to make her the leader, they believed they had to make her void of all emotion or any semblance of feminine behavior. That scene where they were in the Upside Down and she just shot at the dark mass in the sky even after her boyfriend said, maybe we should wait, showed she didn't have the cautious nature of most people, let alone women. Think I'm sexist for saying that? Ask yourself why there aren't more women in NASCAR or competitive racing. It doesn't require specific physical strength or something only a man can do. I believe most women aren't risk takers. That isn't a slight against them. I've looked on at my guy friends as they were about to do some stupid stunt and think, boy, you guys are lovably dumb. Speaking of women, Robin. This girl. They tried to make her relatable and quirky. She came off as fake and annoying. I found nothing redeeming about her, and should they take her character out of the series entirely, it wouldn't change much of anything, except fewer monologues. Another issue with this last season is, why did Mike have so little airtime? This series was supposed to be about those boys, and Elle. Especially Mike and Elle, it seemed at times. But Mike was shoved to the wayside. He and Elle had hardly any intimacy until the end. Perhaps they were trying to build some sort of tension for when they'd have to say their final goodbyes. I don't know, but it was noticeably odd to me. As for the coming out scene. For those fans who had an issue with it, it is less to do with disliking a gay character and more to do with timing. When shows do this sort of thing, they make characters and their feelings more important than the plot and high stakes surrounding them. It signals the audience to care about the feelings and less about the fact that everyone may die. However, I can give the moment some credit. Deathbed confessions are definitely a thing, so if Will believed he may die with that secret, I can see him confessing it. Also, he believed that Vecna was using it against him, and to confess it gave him leverage over Vecna. So, I felt mostly indifferent to it. In today's climate, it gets tiring for a lot of the audience because yet another gay character is shoehorned in to a show or movie when realistically there wouldn't be as many. It feels disingenuous and politically motivated rather than important to the story. We should care more about the story. Why aren't we caring about the story? And if you think I'm wrong, many executives have already been doing this. One, just a few years ago, got in trouble for admitting she was trying to put it in everything she could. Whether it mattered to the story or not, she didn't care. However, again with Stranger Things, they showed that Will was struggling with this seasons ago, so it isn't a sudden pivot or anything. It seems like it may have been true to his character. So, in conclusion on that point, meh. There were many plot holes and inconsistencies and logical fallacies, so I will leave it to other YouTube creators like Real Life Fake Wizard to go in more deeply on those. But I'll say, it bothered me, and many other fans, that there were suddenly no Demogorgons or creatures waiting to protect Vecna in his most important and vulnerable moment at the end. The dude's been making these plans for years. This is his greatest achievement in his mind. Why wouldn't he be more prepared? The Duffer Brothers tried to explain that away, with Vecna underestimating the troop and never expecting anyone to mess with him on Planet X. But that's just lame. Another big issue. When the vacuum of space opened up in the Upside Down wormhole, taking a car and tombstones with it, but our heroes were barely knocked off their feet? For a show that talks a lot about physics and science and makes us believe that these children understand the mysteries of the universe better than everyone else, they make us have to forget all of that in moments like that, and that's irritating. Furthermore, when Nancy and Jonathan were dealing with the aftermath of her poor decision to shoot something she didn't understand because she's the shoot person now, it caused a reaction that was affecting everything around them on an atomic level. Why didn't it affect them? Did the creators of the show not know that everything is made of atoms? Why weren't they melting into the floor and walls just as the soldiers had previously? Is it because we couldn't have them die so Nancy could be Timu Rambo later? This season, and probably more of them, had a serious pacing issue. It felt like we were slogging through each scene and making little progress, as if they were padding the runtime, stretching this cash cow out as far as they could. It happened numerous times, usually when someone was running up that hill, but one that stood out to me was at the end. The gang, on Planet X, preparing to ambush Vecna and save the children, were running toward the entrance to his evil fortress, Snake Mountain. I mean, Mount Doom. I mean, Vecna's fleshy mind palace of darkness. The crew were running toward this entrance for so long. At one point, when it finally cut back to them because we have to cut that action with some other action or non-action-y moment happening somewhere else, I saw that they were further back than where they were 5 minutes ago. No closer to the bloody entrance. Wait. That reminds me of... Yeah, they stole that! One final inconsistency that bugged me was they seemingly never, or rarely, used the Vecna powers the same way twice. By that I mean, the creators would present to us various abilities that Henry/Vecna has, and then he wouldn't use them in moments it would totally make sense to use later. It was seemingly for convenience sake, as in bad writing. Possibly, though, it was vital for his plan to work that he had to focus all of his supernatural energy on only one task with the kids, and it weakened him and his abilities to do other things simultaneously. Maybe. Either way, lame. Lastly, in the shameful pile, what does this show have against dads? Mike's father, loser. Dustin's father, gone. Will's father, loser gone. Lucas's father was present, but gets very little airtime. This series is based in the 80s. In the 80s, there were a slew of sitcoms where it was dad-only families. The moms vanished or were dead. Some say that was an intentional point to make a social commentary of the effects of mothers suddenly in the workforce. I don't know, but I do know that Stranger Things never liked Mike's father and proved it in this finale. He was always a joke, a loser, a square, and practically vacant character. Then at the end, they let him nearly die, and his kids don't even visit him in the hospital? Yes, there was a large period of time where it seemed that dads were at work with their buddies or saying, "Listen to your mother." That sucks, and I would accept that with my husband, should we have kids. But man, why'd they have to be so mean to Mr. Wheeler? I don't even remember his name! As for the positives, Dustin. I love Dustin. As my favorite character, I adored him throughout the series, but I loved his character development in this last season. He was still using his smarts and inventions and quick wit, but now he had the teenage angst coupled with grief and anger after losing Eddie. It was eating away at him in very real and raw ways that felt not only honest for the character, but also to what a teenage boy may feel in real life. He chose anger and isolation like so many boys and men do when they're going through something seemingly too deep to share. He sought fights with bullies because at least then he could fight something rather than just feel the loss of his friend. I cried and cried when Dustin and Steve finally reconciled at the end. When Dustin thought he was going to lose Steve, he broke down and he begged him to stay. It was a perfect moment. Succinct, raw, honest, and heartfelt. It made its impact and left before it went on too long or felt too dramatic. Unlike the scene with Nancy and Jonathan. But we won't get into that, because we're in the positive section now. Another positive is the scene where Elle made her intentions plain to Hopper. Maybe plain isn't the right word. We still weren't sure if she was going to die or not. But she showed him that she loved and respected him and that he was her father, but that it was time for him to trust her to make the right decision. That was a perfect way for her to rise up into her independence. So often these days, a strong female character has to go around monologuing about how strong and independent she is. She don't need no man, and she can do it all. Elle wasn't saying any of that. She recognized how much she needed him, but now she knew they needed her, and she was going to do the right thing whether he liked it or not, respectfully. It felt like a real conversation between a father and a daughter. Furthermore, up to this point, she had been lied to, used, and manipulated by so many people. Even Callie was trying to convince her to do something she didn't really want to do. But in the end, she made her own decision, and that was beautiful. On that note, the two gifted girls, Callie and Ellie, they had a decent plan if Mike is right in his assumptions about Elle's survival. I'm not 100% convinced that is what actually happened. But if so, good job, girls. I liked that Will showed empathy and compassion for Henry when he saw the memory of what happened to him in the mine. It showed that good guys can see the humanity and try to help others back from the brink. But what I liked even more was that the creators didn't do what so many shows and movies do these days. They didn't make Henry do a 180. He didn't say, "Thank you for showing me the error of my ways. Through the power of love, I'll be a good boy again." The show let an uncomfortable truth be told. Some people are irredeemable. Some villains are evil, and no amount of understanding and hugs can fix it. The alternate ending, should the creators have taken this path, would have sucked so bad. Vecna would have teamed up with the gang in the end to defeat the darkness and either sacrifice himself and have an ending speech apologizing and thanking the kids he so badly traumatized all these years. That would have been very much not satisfying. No, some villains just need to be destroyed. Seeing the kids all feel the memories of the horrible things he did to them and their loved ones while Joyce took forever to hack at his neck. Quick reminder to sharpen your tools, folks. This made the viewer feel the gravity and the healing power of defeating a foe. So good call, Duffer Dudes. In that same vein, they did redeem Derek. This kid was a mean-spirited bully, but through someone caring about him and giving him a chance to have purpose and be a hero, he took it. And a really sweet story arc happened out of that. I enjoyed that. Nearing the end of the final episode, Robin's voice is heard informing the town across the airwaves about the new developments, monologuing yet again. I turned to my husband and said, if they end this series with stupid Robin trying to be so relatable and quirky, I will lose it, dude. It should end with the boys playing D&D. Come full circle. And I am so glad I was right, and that is how they ended it. I actually cried yet again. However, it is kind of sad we had to wait so long for it to feel remotely like the original show again. By that I mean, this show started with adorable, nerdy, sweet boys playing D&D, riding their bikes, and heroically protecting a vulnerable and innocent girl. In over their heads in supernatural and cosmic danger. Somewhere along the way, they lost the plot and made it about too many other things and too many other characters. But to end on a good note, whether the creators intended it or not, they ended up not only tying it back to the beginning by having the boys play D&D in Mike's basement, but also by having Mike believe he is still protecting the innocent and vulnerable girl he found all those years ago by not revealing whether she is alive and not searching for her in spite of his own wishes. So my surprising take, that may be unpopular, is I didn't hate it. My expectations were low after the first episode of this final season, and then with the internet seemingly raging over it, I thought I was really going to hate it. The editing and dialogue alone are enough to make me want to stop watching it. And if this was the first season of this thing called Stranger Things, I would hate it and probably stop watching after that first episode. But after everything we've been through with these kids, they ended it better than people are giving it credit. I didn't love it. I probably wouldn't even say I liked it. But I didn't hate it. And that surprised me. However, it would be very much like me to be overthinking it.